we spend hundreds of millions of dollars to try to get people who are addicted help? Like, do we not do that? This segment is brought to you by Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. Some patients like me can lose 20 to 30 pounds in a month or two. Schedule your free 15-minute consultation today at eastsideweightlossclinic.com. The Seattle Auditor's Office earlier this month, they released a 65-page report. 65-page reports are just my favorite, on why things are still so bad. Like, what's the breakdown here? So I appreciate the auditors, the title of the report, addressing places in Seattle where overdoses and crime are concentrated. An evidence-based approach. Puke, evidence-based approach, like my you-know-what. So this, again, is from the Seattle Auditor's Office, where they go in and they actually have, like, they did some kind of monitoring of certain hotspots in the city of Seattle, and they created this 65-page report saying, here are some recommendations for the city of Seattle to make things better. First of all, this is full of the kind of crap that you'd expect it to be full of. You know, it's 65 pages. Did I read it all? No, I read a lot of it. And, you know, one of the first things I saw was this stupid graphic where it was like a strategic prevention framework. And it had, this is like government bureaucracy at its worst. It had this like 5-point diagram, and then around it, these arrows that said equity. And the second I see equity related to anything about how we deal with the drug crisis and people who are committing crimes and smoking hard drugs on our streets, I just want to shut it off. But I can't, because I host a podcast where I'm supposed to explain these things to you guys. So unfortunately, I can't shut it off, and I have to read and look at all their stupid graphics that they create. So in this, they talked, you know, they brought up something that is true and that we all knew, which is these drug areas, right? They're pretty limited in terms of where they are. Like, there are areas of Seattle you can walk around and there's like no problems at all. But there are hotspots. And they said, in particular, there are 10 continuous street segments that have the highest concentration of overdose responses and crime incidents. So some of those won't surprise you. Pike Street from 2nd to 5th, like right by Pike Place Market, 3rd Avenue, Union to Pine. Then you've got down by the courthouse. But they're all kind of in the same area, right? And they've identified them, and all we need are our eyeballs to identify them. You walk downtown and you know exactly where the hot pockets are for crime and substance abuse in these open air markets. Like, it'll take, I was reading some review that was posted, our friend Ari Hoffman posted it from someone who came in on one of the cruise ships, and they like left a review basically like of the cruise in Seattle and said, even this person who was their first time here said, avoid this area, this area, this area, otherwise you can walk around fine. Like, everyone knows what the problem areas are. But when you look at it like that, the fact that there's 10 areas specifically where most of this is happening, and most of it is being perpetrated by the same people over and over and over. And as a city, we can't get a handle on that. You know where it's happening. You know who's doing it. We have the laws on the books now that allow you to crack down on it. And you need a 65-page report from an auditor to tell you to do just that? And true to government bureaucracy, this was the key takeaway of, okay, what should the city of Seattle do, right? Like, besides, you know, I don't know, enforce the law, make sure there's consequences for actions, make sure we don't have a permissible environment for substance abuse, you know, like really obvious stuff. Their top recommendation was this. Lord help me. The mayor's office should identify a, quote, project champion to oversee the city's efforts to address places where overdoses and crimes are concentrated. We recommend that the mayor's office designate a high-level project champion to oversee a place-based problem-solving approach that includes implementing evidence-based strategies to address overdoses and crime, working with the Seattle Office of Emergency Management and other departments to use a proven coordination system, seeking technical assistance from and collaboration with, like the word soup of this, for just enforce the law. And also, I'll tell you what, Seattle already has a project champion. Seattle already has one. Someone who is supposed to oversee the city's efforts to address overdoses and crime. You know who the project champion is? You want to take one guess, Nicole?
The mayor.
What?
Maybe.
The mayor. Did we not elect a project champion in the city of Seattle? We already got one. And in fact, our project champion, the mayor, He campaigned saying he was going to improve public safety. He was going to fight crime. He was going to fight addiction. So we really need another 6-figure salaried position to do what the mayor should be doing in overseeing our city's response to fighting substance abuse and crime. Have you all gone mental? And on top of that, we need a 65-page report from the Seattle Auditor's office to tell us that the mayor should be overseeing all of this? And to give us a little chart that says, oh, we can do all this, but equity, 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 equity. It's like enough to make me want to puke. And meantime, it's very serious because people die. People are dying on our streets, overdosing on our streets on a daily basis. What should be the economic engine for the entire state looks like shit, looks like crap. Sorry, looks terrible. And it has all these implications where now, as we've seen over the last 5 or so years in earnest, it's bled out into the other areas. So Seattle's problem has become Snohomish County's problem, has become Pierce County's problem. It's gone to the east, and there's all these issues. So you're really telling me, I mean, God, look, I know it's easier to sit here in this chair and criticize public officials rather than run for office myself and do the hard work myself. I get it. I have self-awareness. I'm willing to admit that. A lot easier to be a podcast host and to criticize the mayor than to actually be the mayor and make these decisions. But if you didn't want to be the one to oversee the crime crisis, if you didn't want to be the one to oversee the drug overdoses and the issues that are happening in the most important, economically, critically important part of the city, then why'd you even run? If you're not willing to be the person that says, that's not working, this is working, that's working, then why'd you even run? Are you just a figurehead? I guess I don't get it. I had a lot of hopes for Bruce Harrell. He said a lot of the right things, but it's a failure when the city auditor's office needs to come out and do a 65-page report about why we can't just enforce the laws and clean up our streets and then suggest, well, I guess the mayor can't do it, so we need a project champion to do all these things. Not to mention, like, if the mayor wasn't your first pick for who the project champion is already, there is a second option, the police chief.
Right.
Like, aren't there multiple layers of project champions already? And one of the other things that's wrapped up into this that was mentioned in the auditor's report are all these organizations that all your hard-earned money goes to, right? So they're supposed to provide housing and they're supposed to provide substance abuse treatment and all of these things that make the system work, because arresting people isn't the ticket out of this. I've said that all along. It's a last resort when the carrot and the stick, the carrot doesn't work, so you got to hit them with a stick, figuratively, of course. Don't hit somebody with a stick unless they resist arrest, then by all means. So you have to have a holistic approach. But the issue is for years, this has been a problem. A homeless crisis to the drug. There's no tracking. It's like, here, take $50 million of our hard-earned money, and we won't follow up with you to see if you got any good outcomes out of that. We'll just keep funneling taxpayer funds toward you. So there's really no oversight of this massive industrial complex comprising of hundreds of millions of dollars. There's no oversight of it. So there's no benchmarks that people are having to meet to ensure that they deserve to continue to get our hard-earned money funneled to them. And what have I said all along? Whether it's the drug industrial complex, the homelessness industrial complex, the climate industrial complex, there is no incentive to stop the money train. So they're going to keep, we're 10 years into this, right? It's been, I think, more than a decade since Dow Constantine said we were in a state of emergency around homelessness, or around a decade. Yet it's worse than it ever has been. It was up 20% year over year. Any rationally thinking person would say, okay, well, maybe this isn't working then and we have to change what we're doing. But the government's like, we're getting so much money from the taxpayers and their generosity and we're funneling it to our cronies. So yeah, keep people living on the streets in filth and squalor, keep people dying with needles in their arms, like all that's fine, no big deal, because the money's still coming in. And for some reason, voters have not become wise to what's happening and they haven't voted us out yet. So why would we do anything any different? Anyway, 65-page audit to tell us you need someone to oversee the most critical issues the city is facing. Newsflash, Mayor Bruce Harrell, that's you. You are the, what is it called? Project champion.